Tesla heads into 2026 with momentum and major questions. After a 36% plunge in the first quarter, its worst stretch since 2022, the stock has climbed back to an all-time closing high, now up about 21%, heading into the final days of 2025. That rebound is being driven by big bets on AI, robotaxis, and autonomy, even as EV sales slow and regulatory pressure builds. Now, to break it all down, I spoke with Wedbush head of tech research, Dan Ives, who closely tracks Tesla. You've called 2026 a defining year for Tesla. What milestones would signal autonomy is moving from promise into real-world execution?
Yeah, I think, look, 2026, it's going to be the year of autonomous, for Tesla. Look, I think in terms of metrics, 30 cities. 30 cities in terms of getting robotaxis with no safety driver are going to be key, A. Two, you need to see the geofence area, similar as Austin, expand significantly. That I think could ultimately being a rounding error relative to what Waymo is doing today. And I think the third thing, it's volume production cybercabs. I mean, you need to start to see that, let's call it April, May timeframe. That really will signify the era has begun. And I believe that's why it's going to be the most important year ever for Tesla.
And Tesla has more real-world driving data than any competitor. In 2026, where is the first place that this could show up financially, this advantage?
Well, look, I think part of it is that that's given them the advantage in terms of scaling the geofence area in these cities. I mean, look at Austin. I mean, we saw it firsthand. It started off such a small radius, and now look what you're seeing today. Just so I think it just shows data that's their advantage. I mean, 10 million cars on the road. Tesla has something that I think no other company has. And also it speaks to their ability to scale across the United States. I think a lot more quicker than I think anyone's anticipating.
And Tesla is investing across EVs, AI, robotics, energy, and autonomy all at the same time. And next year, in 2026, where does capital discipline start to matter more than ambition?
Look, you're talking about, when I think about overall AI, you're in year 3 of an 8 to 10 year build out. We're talking about fourth industrial revolution. And I think for Tesla right now, it's about building out autonomous, building out robotics. Could there be some worries in certain areas? If you start to get over your skis over the next coming years and you haven't shown it? Yeah, but I think right now there's a recognition 2026 is going to be the year that this thing inflects. And look, autonomous we think is worth $1 trillion alone. You start to factor robotics and everything. I mean, I'd say in a bull case scenario, $3 trillion, early 27, late 26 is hittable.
And so how much does timing matter here then? If autonomy works, but it arrives 2 years later than expected, does the valuation case still hold?
No, I mean, look, investors have been patient, but you need to show in 26 that the strategy's there. It's not just talk. So to your point, I think part of the bear case is okay, whatever Musk says is going to get delayed, not going to hit the targets. I think this is one where you've given them the room. 26 is now, again, I'm not calling make or break, but 26 is the year you have to show brick by brick that you're building. And I think, look, could you, from a timeline perspective, extend some of that in 27? Yeah. But this is rubber meets the road, 26. And that's why we're so bullish in terms of where Tesla is.
And so what sort of evidence do you think investors need then next year?
Look, I think it's going to be like city by city. Show what accuracy looks like. Show what the ability is to get to true level 4 autonomous. I think these are going to be some of the significant things that you see play out. How quickly you could ramp, what the regulatory roadmap looks like.
And do investors need to believe in Optimus for the Tesla story to work, or is autonomy alone enough?
Look, autonomous alone works, but no doubt, I mean, a key part of the growth story and this key growth chapter for Tesla, it's autonomous but it's also robotics. It's Optimus. I mean, look, I can tell you, like, there's some bulls. They're more bullish and Optimus than autonomous in terms of what they think that can do. So yeah, I think, look, it speaks to like the disruptive technology chapter now coming to Tesla.
And most comparisons focus on Waymo, but what competitor worries you the most over the next 5 years, and why is that risk underpriced?
Look, I think Waymo has done a phenomenal job, but you're in less than 10 cities and they're super expensive cars. Like they can't scale. Like if you said to me, like, what worries me? Like, look, if Uber aggressively recognized that they can't do this alone and really tried to scale this, that's something that I think would definitely be noteworthy. If Tesla did not execute to the speed that I believe that they can, you look at like things like Uber, like some of the stuff that they're doing. I mean, like, look, it's a winner. It's not a winner takes all. It's a winner takes most market.
And if we're sitting here at the end of next year, what would success look like for Tesla beyond market cap or stock price? What would actually confirm your long-term thesis played out?
I think it's getting to true autonomous. I mean, for many people like myself, we've talked about this for 6, 7 years, like the concept of like getting to that. Well, because I believe like when it comes to AI, autonomous, it's probably the hardest one to solve because you're dealing with human lives. Like when you're dealing with like just regular use cases, okay, you can mess up data here and there. When you're dealing with human lives, 99% is not good enough. 99.9% is not good enough. 99.99999. The point is like you're trying to solve one of the most difficult problems there is, but I think it all starts this year.
And as data center power demand grows, Tesla's battery storage business is getting more attention. In 2026, what would need to happen for energy storage to matter meaningfully to Tesla's valuation?
Look, I think that's something like right now, valuation, you're given nothing for that. I think some of the parts, you could argue that that really starts to play a much bigger role, specifically like in the data center build out and everything we see. So look, I think it just speaks to my view. If I showed you beginning of the year, Tesla, what numbers are going to look like at the end, you'd be like, oh, the stock, is it $200, 220? Instead, obviously, all-time high going toward $500 because investors are recognizing the sum of the parts and what the core valuation could look like.
And you've laid out a very bullish view for Tesla in 2026. What does a realistic bear case look like for Tesla in that same period?
Bear case is just, it's not hitting targets. Regulatory hits issues. Technology, instead of robotaxis, 30 cities, you're at 10. They don't get full production. You don't start volume production of cybercabs in April, May. They push out to 27. Like those are legitimate. Those would feed the bear thesis. The bear thesis is not about like deliveries, brand issues, Musk. It's all about like, there's almost like 3 to 4 sort of, I think, battleground areas that the bulls need to see success. And if they don't, the bears would have meat on the bone.
All right, well, we'll check back in on all of this next year. Dan, thanks so much.
Great to always see you.
Tesla's 2026 story now hinges on execution. Musk said driverless robotaxi testing is underway, cybercab production is set to start in April, and investors are betting autonomy can outweigh EV headwinds. The opportunity is massive, but so is the risk if timelines slip or regulation tightens. For Tesla, the next year may decide whether the AI vision turns into real-world scale or stays a high-stakes promise. For Investors Business Daily, I'm Claire O'Connor.